Good evening, everyone. I'm Gwendolyn Ducree, live in the newsroom with WVLT. We are tracking several brush fires across East Tennessee, including some emergency evacuations. We're going to go ahead and show you a view of what we're looking at this hour. This is from Pigeon Forge video from our crews out there live on the scene. You see several crews trying to get everyone out and evacuated within a 2-mile radius from Parkside Resort. This is in Pigeon Forge. If you're familiar with East Tennessee, this is the Great Smoky Mountains area. You see crews backed up for several yards here in Pigeon Forge. We heard from Sevier County Dispatch about half an hour ago telling us that they were getting slammed with calls coming in, trying to get people out of this area. We do have strong winds picking up that fire. So this is an emergency situation. This now is a look at our website where we are giving you all the very latest. We do know right now that people are being evacuated and moved into a temporary shelter set up in Pigeon Forge. It's at their community center. That location for you is 170 Community Center Drive. If ever in this newscast you need that information, again, this is on the WVLT News app, as well as the website. You can get that information. One thing, whenever we're talking about these wildfires in our area, specifically in the Great Smoky Mountains, we think back to the 2016 fire, where we've seen heavy winds, strong winds pushing that fire and the flames up. Well, it's similar to the situation that we're seeing right now at this hour. The difference is that we're expecting rain. We didn't see that in 2016. So let's talk about how soon we're getting to that rain. So let's go ahead and pass things over to meteorologist Ben Cathy, who is tracking this. And Ben, we're looking now at some video sent to us from a viewer, Victor Sanchez. But can you tell us how soon can people expect some of that rain to come in?
This is, they're not on here. Oh, Kyle has TVB7. Kyle has TVB7.
Steam and the winds are still very gusty. 37 in Sevier. That's our closest to Pigeon Forge. Will Puckett, who's sitting there, said it's very windy, but the good news is the rain's underway. Good news is also that there has been no lightning so far in the area. So here is Dollywood into Pigeon Forge, and that is where the area is. All right, so the heaviest stuff should pick up in this part of Sevier County a little bit closer to 9 o'clock. Again, your hour-by-hour rain chances are right there. Let me step off and walk you back to the current radar picture across this part of Tennessee. Again, where we look at that big red line. Circle it for you, get our little pointer. That's where the heavier stuff is. That will move towards the Gatlinburg area later. So here's your first alert future cast, taking you through the next couple hours here, and heavy stuff moving in a couple hours, even though the light rain's moving in, gusty stuff throughout the day. By the way, Gwen, the peak gust at a little Parkside Resort, that's where we're talking. They have their own little weather station, 34 miles an hour so far today, even though surrounded by gusts to 60 atop Gatlinburg and atop Wares Valley. So the wind's still playing a factor. Hopefully the rain will help to suppress these fires.
Hopefully so. And let's go ahead and take a look again at what this is. Fire. We're seeing how many crews are out there. This is video from Kyle Granger. He's out there now. You can see crews backed up again, trying to get people out of this area. It's not mandatory at this point, but it is an emergency evacuation in Pigeon Forge. I want to also talk about the other fires that we've been following. We want to bring some good news here if we can for just a moment. If you're in the Cott County area, Cott County Emergency Management Agency, they're telling us that as of 7:30 this evening, they were trying to contain 2 fires. And at this hour, they both have been contained in the Trail Hollow and Middle Creek area. Again, that's Trail Hollow and Middle Creek fires. Those 2 have been contained as of 7:30 this evening. Of course, we're hearing from officials saying that they're still standing down on those evacuations, but they're still in the area and asking for people to be vigilant at this time, and if you have an emergency, don't hesitate to call 911. They say call them immediately. We did hear from dispatch about an hour ago, and they're saying they've been just slammed with calls, even had to wrap up our call and asking some of those questions, but they just told us that that evacuation was for a 2-mile radius in the Pigeon Forge area, specifically the Parkside Drive and Pine Mountain Road area. Again, crews are still in that zone. We have our own crews out there trying to get as close and as safe as we can to that fire to show you just how deep it goes into the mountains and how close it is to homes, to businesses, and where people live. Those are questions that we're still asking right now. Again, this is a different story when we're talking about those 2016 fires, because you can't not think of it. We know people get worried. Our viewers are highly concerned when that happens because it was that same story of heavy winds coming in. The only difference, as you heard from Ben Cathy, meteorologist Ben Cathy, is that we're expecting some rain. Parts of the area are already seeing that rain, and we're hoping that we can get to those crews in that situation. But again, if you're just tuned in,
for you again.
Thank you. If we are just tuning in, this is a look in Pigeon Forge, East Tennessee. There are several emergency evacuations in place for the area, specifically in Pigeon Forge. There is a 2-mile radius evacuation along the Parkside Drive and Pine Mountain Road area. This is also near a resort. We'll take you back. So that resort is near Little Cove Road and Pine Mountain Road. A lot of people commenting, and we appreciate you watching, saying that they are praying for the individuals in that area. Folks are asking, is this a fire? Yes. Officials are calling this a brush fire. So when you have that wind gust coming in, you get a fire. The cause is unknown as to what sparked this, but hopefully it won't last that long because we are expecting rain. So to talk more about those conditions in the weather, we'll bring it out to meteorologist Ben Cathy. Ben, what can you tell us at this time?
Well, Gwen, the winds are still very strong in much of Sevier County, including here towards Parkside Resort, which is a pretty hilly area. You can see it here in the video with these active leaping flames from Victor Sanchez Rodriguez. He's staying near this area, and you can see, this is cabin country, very hilly. Those winds are funneling through, and the wind gusts right now still 30 to 45 plus in this part of Pigeon Forge and into Sevier County. Here we go on live radar. It's been raining for the past 45 minutes or thereabouts in the Pigeon Forge area. What we're looking at right now is right off. If you were to kind of take the exit to Dollywood Lane and go across right here, Cove Mountain and our Cove area, Pine Mountain, and right towards that Parkside Resort. So some heavier bands of rainfall there. Temperatures have come down. Humidity has come up, all vital to suppressing these fires with the help of the wildland firefighters. So heaviest stuff moves towards Pigeon Forge by 9 to 10. And this is the area-wide chance of rain. We're all going to get rain. Some lightning possible in the next couple hours in the Pigeon Forge, in the Parkside Resort area. We're looking into the future here. Again, right here is the big cause of concern. Also fire near Wares Valley earlier today. Gwen was telling you about the Cott County fires, thankfully suppressed. There's been no lightning, so these have to have a human cause, inadvertent or otherwise. But thankfully, the lightning has been pretty low so far. But Gwen, let me take you back to live radar here. It has been raining in this area, this Parkside Resort area, for the last at least 45 minutes. Our crews on the scene telling us it's raining, also telling us the winds are still very strong.
And Ben, again, can you tell folks how much rainfall are they expecting? Do you suspect that it could be enough to take out even a bit of the fire?
I think so. We're looking at about let me go show you what we're looking at. About 1 inch to 2 inches of rain by the time we hit midnight, as this should be wrapping up. So hopefully the rain will be steady enough. The video we got from Victor shows active flames. They weren't quite as high of flames as you might expect. but still quite a bit of rainfall on the way. So through later on tonight, we could have isolated inch and a quarter here. And gusts so far have been very strong. That helps to drive already existing fires. So Knoxville's had 46. This is the area I'm talking about right here. The Parkside Resort has had gusts to 34 a little earlier in the day, but nearby, Cove Mountain near Wares Valley, 78-mile-an-hour winds. Thankfully, I talked to some friends in Wares Valley. Can't see smoke from where they're at. But once again, these wind-driven fires, Gwendolyn Dupree, the rain should help suppress a lot of that later on this evening, especially a lot of those smaller hot spots and embers.
All right, thank you, Ben. Of course, we'll be touching base with you and checking back in. We appreciate you, Ben.
Thank you.
Again, guys, thanks for watching and tuning in with us. If you are just clicking on, we are tracking emergency evacuations across East Tennessee, specifically in the Pigeon Forge area. If you like coming to this area, this is the Great Smoky Mountains that we are tracking for you now. Again, this is still a look from video from one of our viewers, Victor Sanchez Rodriguez. Thank you, Victor, for sending us in that video. If you are in this area and you just don't know where to go at this hour, we have heard from officials in Sevier County. They are saying you can go to the Pigeon Forge Community Center. I'll give you the address. It's 170 Community Center Drive in Pigeon Forge. If you need that, if you need to share it with friends, go to the WVLT News app. We have that address for you there. Again, let's go ahead and take a look at how crews are trying to manage this fire at this time. This is in Pigeon Forge along or near the Little Cove Road area. Also along the Parkside Resort area, if you're familiar. This is a 2-mile radius evacuation that they are asking people to leave from their homes, businesses, wherever you are, to try to keep you safe at this time. Again, this is an emergency evacuation notice. We'll keep those videos rolling for you so you can just see all the crews. We're down there now along Pine Mountain Road. This is video from one of our crew members, Kyle Granger, who lives in that area. He's telling us that he even had to leave his home, but he's safe, we're just checking in and out with him to give us the very latest in the conditions. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free. We'll try to get you some answers as we can. I do know at some point people were saying that they were seeing some power outages. I've been checking on that for you all as well. Here's a look at a map in Granger and Sevier County. We're not seeing a large impact, but you do have about a dozen here near the Gatlinburg area. This looks like it is specific to the West Holly Ridge Road area, just a few people in that area. I will tell you, I've been checking on the power outages just because since about 2 hours ago, we've been seeing people saying that they're losing power. The numbers have gone down since I've last checked. So that is some good news. More good news for you if you live in Cocke County. Emergency crews are saying that they've been able to contain 2 of those fires, Trail Hollow and Middle Creek. Both of those fires have been contained as of 7:30. So again, we are tracking other fires. We're still trying to determine how many altogether we've seen thus far. Again, we do have multiple crews out across East Tennessee and Pigeon Forge, and I do believe in the Cocke County area.
Tell me when you're ready for call.
And it looks like we're going to give you some more information from Kyle Granger. He is on the phone with us. Kyle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I am currently leaving the scene of where
yeah, so you just be patient with us. Again, we're trying to connect with our chief bureau reporter out of Sevier County, Kyle Granger, who I told you before, he told us earlier that he lives in that area and he was even evacuated or asked to evacuate and has since done so. Kyle, you can hear me?
I can hear you,
Okay.
Gwen.
Kyle is talking to us. Kyle, I'll go ahead and let you take it away. I can't hear you.
Okay. If you can hear me, I will just keep going. I have just arrived to the Pigeon Forge Community Center. Sorry for the interruption there, but yes, I'm at the Pigeon Forge Community Center.
Yes, Kyle.
You can hear him. Just tell him to keep talking.
Just keep talking to me, Kyle.
Sorry for the interruption there, but
Here you go.
Okay, guys, it looks like we lost Kyle. Thanks for sticking with us through that. Again, this is our chief reporter out of Sevier County trying to give us the latest on the conditions that he's seeing right now. We do know that he lives in that area and he was evacuated as well. So we'll check in if we can with Kyle momentarily. But again, we do have multiple crews out in this area. Again, if you are near a 2-mile radius within Parkside Resort near Little Cove Road and Pine Mountain Road, emergency crews are asking for you to evacuate the area. Again, this is not a mandatory, but this is an emergency evacuation in Pigeon Forge. And we've seen multiple brush fires across East Tennessee starting from around 5 to 4 o'clock this afternoon. So we do know that crews have responded and have been on scene in most of these areas for hours now. And again, you know, whenever we're talking about these fires, your mind just goes back to the 2016. A lot of people are praying, Lord, please don't let this be the same story. The difference and the good news that we have is that we're looking at rainfall, several inches coming from meteorologist Ben Cathy telling us that in any moment now we can see that. And he's looks like he can give us a look. Oh. We're going to be tracking that rainfall for you, but we already know from our crews that the rain has come down in parts of East Tennessee, so that is some good news for the folks in this area. And you heard Ben say that it could be enough to help firefighters contain some of these fires. Again, we don't know specifically how close people live in this area, what buildings are nearby. You see here, these are trees that we can see for the most part. We haven't heard of any injuries at this hour, so more good news for you. And again, keeping on to that good news, if you live in Cove County, emergency crews have contained both of those fires in Trail Hollow and Middle Creek fires. Ben, I do hear you. Did you want to come back up and speak with us?
Very windy around this fire scene, but we're thinking that there will be enough rain, and it's been raining for more than an hour now, that could really help the firefighters help this. Okay, so what we're looking at is right here, basically west of the exit to Dollywood in some remote cabin country. The video we saw from Victor Sanchez Rodriguez showed that. Probably a good 1/10 of an inch so far, which most likely not enough to suppress it, but there's heavier rain coming in, and right, you see the dividing point of these two green lines, that's right where we're talking. So right around the 9 o'clock hour, we should see this. Rain chances staying pretty high, and here is that future cast if people are just joining us. Right about 9 o'clock, maybe 9:15, your start time of the heaviest stuff. It's going to keep raining until about 11:30. Hey, Gwen, I've been checking for updates while you were talking live. No new updates from the Wares Valley Volunteer Fire Department. No new updates from Seymour Fire Department. They were talking about the mutual aid earlier, and we're still seeing gusts to near 40 miles an hour in this area. So not only is the rain coming down sideways, the potential of an ember to be kind of thrown up is there as well. If you're just joining us, this kind of tells some of the story. You can see the fire when Victor moves around this tree. That's about the tall as you can see the flames. And Victor is okay. He said he left the area or was asked to leave the area with his folks shortly after this, but still very gusty across the area. If you're wondering, 40-mile-an-hour gust in Knoxville. Quick update on the general weather. We're still following the chance of a couple strong storms tonight. And unfortunately, the wind is there, but some better news, hopefully, as this red line, okay, this is the heaviest band, moves closer to Gatlinburg, Prowley, and Pigeon Forge and the Dollywood area in about an hour's time. So this is moving to the east at pretty good speeds, almost 50 miles an hour. It will hit Knoxville, Maryville, Alcoa, and Pigeon Forge in that order, but we'll follow that. Gusty winds, no lightning around this area, which is a good thing. The bad thing is these brush fires do have a human cause of some sort. Still waiting to find out on the cause, but going to have more rain coming in later tonight. Some could see in that area a little bit more than an inch of rain.
Well, as I see that spreading out the area, and once it starts encapsulating an area.
All right, you are looking at some images and video coming into us from Pigeon Forge. We've got multiple crews on the scene in that area. Kyle Granger is responsible for a lot of these images and videos that you've been seeing. Will Puckett is in the field as well, feeding us information. I'm Amanda Hara here in the WVLT newsroom, joining you as I relieve Gwen. We are learning at this hour that Dandridge Fire is now, and Jefferson County, now assisting with this fast-moving brush fire in Pigeon Forge that is the source of evacuations of hundreds of people in that area. Dandridge Fire telling us at this hour that this is a wildfire that is burning out of control. And if you are from East Tennessee and you've been here at least a few years, you remember vividly the deadly wildfires of 2016. And so this is something that many of us are thinking of. Will Puckett is live for us in Wares Valley by essentially this barricade where emergency crews have gathered as they conduct this rescue operation. And we should mention that this rescue operation is underway in a 2-mile radius around Parkside Resort near Little Cove Road and Pine Mountain Road. And this is important because we think about who are the people who are under this evacuation order. And a lot of them, hundreds of people, by the way, a lot of them are tourists, people who have come here to experience the beauty of East Tennessee. And now this is their reality, being evacuated from their rental cabins, from Parkside Resort. And of course, we can't forget people who live in that area as well, full-time, who are being evacuated as well. So, David Sykes, if you can help me out here, we want to go live to Will Puckett, who is in the field in Wares Valley. Oh, we've got a few second delay, so just bear with us. But Will Puckett is in Wares Valley near this barricade. Will, as I understand, this is kind of the area where all the emergency officials are gathered as they conduct this emergency operation. Do we have any idea how many people have been evacuated so far and where we are in that process?
A couple of hundred, Amanda. We don't have an exact number. We're hoping to get that from our Kyle Granger, who's actually going to be at the location where they have sent the people who have been evacuated along here. But where we're at is right where police officials are beginning to turn folks around on Pine Mountain Road. A sheriff's department deputy is right here letting folks know that they're not able to get past this location where we're at, just at the foot of the resort almost. We haven't heard from fire officials where we're standing at, but we're trying to get a little bit of an idea as to where this fire is at in location to where we're standing and sort of how it's moving. The deputy tells us that it's really up over the ridge to my right here. It's dark. Again, it's just now after 8:15 here, and so we can't see anything at this moment but flashing lights. Occasionally, some fire units, some of the trucks will go in, a couple will go out. All of them continuing to have that flashing light, signaling that this is still a very active scene. You mentioned who is really impacted by this. As far as folks trying to come home from work, a lot of people who live on the other side of the ridge, away from where this fire is, are coming to this location where they can't get back to their homes. And so they're also the ones who are now being impacted, and they're being sent back to that sort of reunification, that community center site where fire officials want folks to go at this time. I talked to an older couple who were actually coming home from dinner and aren't able to get to their home up on the other side of where this fire is at, and they just said, this is scary every time something like this happens. You mentioned, of course, every time a fire happens with winds moving as fast as they're moving right now, minds go back to 2016, and there hasn't been any talk of that where we're at right now. But fire crews, again, very cautionary to get folks back to where they need to be and to that community center to make sure that folks are safe as they fight this fire, Amanda.
And Will, let's talk a little bit about the rain and how that's impacting things. We see that it's picking up there where you are in Wares Valley. And I think a lot of folks are wondering, or at least hoping, is this going to help us in this situation and in this ultimate firefight? What are you hearing from firefighters on the ground about how this weather situation may actually give them the assist they need to get this under control?
Well, actually, again, Amanda, we have not heard anything from fire officials at this time. They're focusing their attention strictly to that fire up over the ridge to my right. A sheriff's deputy is the only individual that we've been able to get even a little bit of information from them. I will say, though, Amanda, when we talk about conditions, it's not the rain that's noticeable right now. While I do have my hood up, it is falling. You can see water droplets on our camera. It's the wind that is most noticeable right now. The wind is incredibly fast. It comes in at heavy gusts, and we're actually standing just off from a pair of power lines. And again, a lot of these trees right here have no leaves, and so they're just strictly catching every ounce of wind that's blowing through them. And again, as far as the rain, it's not as noticeable as these wind and the wind gusts that accompany it are right now.
All right, and you've been driving out to the scene and going to all of these different places in the field, so let me just kind of help fill in a couple blanks here that we're getting back in the studio. Tony Watson with Pigeon Forge Fire Department told us earlier in the day that they were hopeful that the rain that was anticipated that we are seeing now would be beneficial in quelling some of these fire issues and concerns. So we do know from our sources back here in the studio, Will, that they are hopeful that the rain could play at least some sort of role, however minimal or large that might be in this firefight. The wind, though, as you mentioned, a huge concern and something that we've been talking about not just today, but yesterday, really. Our meteorologists were saying, you know what, we know that wind is going to be a problem. We know that dry conditions are going to be an issue, and we know that there are going to be fire concerns come Thursday. And so here we are, officials all day long issuing these fire concerns as the day plays out. Have you been able to witness, Will, and this is a question for you, as you sit at this barricade where essentially authorities are turning people away who are trying to get up Pine Mountain Road, have you watched crews talk with people who are trying to maybe get to their homes? And if so, what was the emotional reaction from people who are trying to get back to their belongings, back to their home? Perhaps they have pets, family members in the home that they're trying to reach for safety reasons.
Right now, they're really quick conversations, Amanda. It's simply, right now, Pine Mountain Road is closed off to emergency personnel only at this time. There is a location at the Pigeon Forge Community Center where you can go to just sort of collect your thoughts and wait out as they fight this fire. I had mentioned a little bit ago that I had talked to an older couple who were trying to get to their home on the opposite side of the ridge from where this fire is at. And as they were trying to get there, they were coming back from dinner. And I asked one of the gentlemen who was driving the car, had actually recognized us, and we were just having a general conversation. How was dinner? How are things? And there wasn't a sense of desperation or a sense of worry about what was going on, but just a matter of factness of, all right, we'll turn back around and wait things out. Folks have questions. Again, this is blocking off folks from both sides of the ridge, from this side to my right, where the fire is at this moment, and then off to my left here, where folks are just trying to get home for their day. And so there's not a sense of panic at this moment. Just a real matter of factness is that fire crews are actively working to quell this fire, go back to the community center and wait things out right there as we wait to see just exactly how long it's going to take to fight this fire. And like you mentioned, if this rain is going to help at all.
And for folks who remember the deadly wildfires that we experienced several years back in 2016, rain was not a part of that equation. Ted and myself were reporting live from the scene all night into the early morning hours, and it was just strictly wind. And so that was the real catalyst for that massive fire. At least in this situation, we are mixing some rain into that situation or that equation. We're going to touch base with you here in a few minutes, so if you can kind of monitor that scene, and we'll touch base and see if there are any updates here in a few seconds. But we do want to take folks to some information that we got earlier in the day. This is a situation that crews have been monitoring since probably yesterday, maybe even the day before, knowing the dry conditions we have and the wind situation. So Pigeon Forge Fire Chief Tony Watson talking to us earlier today about what they were bracing for and what they were hoping they would be able to avoid. All right, we're going to try that one more time for you.
Anybody in the fire service in our area, we're all collectively, just holding our breath, waiting, till we get rain in later in tonight.
Okay, so that is the chief, Tony Watson, Pigeon Forge Fire Department, basically talking about the fact that we know that this is a possibility, and we're really, really hoping we get rain. Here we are, we've got the rain. I'm going to share some video because I don't know that we have showed you in the last few minutes what we're working with here. Really quick, David, is this video that we've got loaded here, this top video, that is of earlier today?
That's from earlier today.
Okay.
We're concerned about how we
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to share
Sevier
this
County
with you,
firefighters answering
and let's
multiple
get the
brush
sound
fire
off.
calls.
If we
One call
can.
came from James Hall, just as he was enjoying his morning coffee.
Give me just 1 second here.
It was just a bunch of smoke. So I ran back in the house and told my wife, you need to call 911 real quick. I said,
We're going to try that one more time. This is Kyle Granger basically reporting this evening from Sevier County as folks braced for wildfires and as some folks were already seeing wildfires in their area. We had multiple departments out keeping homes safe earlier today. So this is just an extension of a series of fires that have been happening all across East Tennessee. So here's Kyle Granger.
Sevier County firefighters answering multiple brush fire calls. One call came from James Hall, just as he was enjoying his morning coffee.
it was just a bunch of smoke. So I ran back in the house and told my wife, you need to call 911 real quick. I said, there's a fire behind our cabin.
There is a high fire danger in Sevier County.
Sevier County EMA sent out a mass message to county residents reminding them not to burn. Hall says embers from his neighbor's fire blew into the dry leaves. Firefighters say with a burn ban in place, they shouldn't have been burning in the first place.
On y'all's channel that I watch all the time, was saying how high the winds were going to be up in the mountains, you know. And then next thing you know, a fire breaks out.
Firefighters say not only their quick response helped save this house and many others, but also this natural fire break, which they say you need to have around your house as well.
We do have those concerns, okay, and so we just got to get smarter about the way that we build them. We got to get smarter about the way we protect them, and we just got to educate all those people here.
Chief Tony Watson says the dry conditions and strong winds have created a dangerous situation. That's why he says all the county's firefighters are on high alert.
Anybody in the fire service in our area, we're all collectively, you know, just holding our breath, waiting, you know, till we get rain in later in tonight.
Hall is thankful for their quick response, which saved his home and many others.
Without these guys from Walden Creek coming up here and putting this fire out, this whole mountain would have been engulfed. So our hats are off to these firefighters here.
And looking for rain to help the situation. In Sevier County, Kyle Granger, WVLT News.
All right, if you're just joining us, we want to fill you in on the situation that's unfolding in Sevier County, specifically Pigeon Forge. What we have happening now is an evacuation because of a fast-moving brush fire. There is an evacuation order in play for people living or visiting Pigeon Forge. They're focusing the evacuation on a 2-mile radius near Parkside Resort, Little Cove Road, and also Pine Mountain Road. We're told hundreds of people are in the process of being evacuated, and they do have a temporary shelter that is now set up at the Pigeon Forge Community Center, which, if you need to know, is 170 Community Center Drive. We do have multiple crews in the area. Kyle Granger is at the Community Center where that shelter is set up. We hope to touch base with him in a second to see exactly how many people are using that resource. And we also have Will Puckett live in Wares Valley for us, where authorities have kind of set up a blockade on one of these roads, essentially turning people away who are trying to make their way into the zone where crews are battling this fire. And this is one of those areas where we're talking about where Will Puckett is set up. And we've got a lot of emergency crews kind of on this road, and this is almost like a staging area where they've got a lot of equipment and crews so they can communicate quickly and get this tackled. And then it's also the place where they're turning people around who are trying to get into their homes or trying to get into the area. And these images and videos are coming to us from Kyle Granger, who has been very attentive to this unfolding and developing situation. Folks who live in Sevier County got an alert, one of those alerts on their phones, basically setting the scene and laying out the situation for them. And the alert read, and this came in around 6:30 today, the alert read, Pigeon Forge Fire Command has requested an evacuation within the area of Parkside Drive and Pine Mountain Road due to this brush fire. And some discussion about the shelter. And excuse some of the language that you're hearing there. This is video coming from folks who are witness to the fire earlier today. We have learned from Dander's Fire, who is now helping with this firefight, that they're calling a wildfire that is burning out of control. And our digital producer, Kellyanne Kruger, just came over and gave me another note. We are now learning that the fire is 30 to 40 acres in size, and they've got 15% of it contained. And David Sykes, one of our assignment editors here, who is helping run this live shot that you're watching, is kind of coordinating some of our crews who we've got in the field. Do we have Ben Caffey ready?
They're going to get more
we do want to touch base with Ben Caffey as soon as we can, because he is going to give us an update on how this rain might be helping folks.
That was
if we take a quick peek at Will Puckett, and we can see some of the rain there coming down on his jacket in Wares Valley. So that gives you an idea of the rain situation. Ben Caffey joining us with a look at how this rainfall could potentially help. This is something fire crews had hoped for earlier in the day. Ben, what's your scientific assessment of how weather could play a role in this firefight?
Yeah, it's been raining at this Parkside Resort since 7:10. There's actually a little private weather center basically there. So we saw the rain start there. We've had gusts 30 to 40. This was before sunset. Victor Sanchez Rodriguez is nearby. He said he's used to seeing quite a bit of kind of bonfires or backyard fires. To Amanda's point, too, a very high fire risk. In fact, the Wares Valley Fire Department earlier today had levied even higher at a 4 out of 5 that no burn permits would be released. It's still very gusty, but thankfully the rain is starting to move in. In fact, the heaviest stuff should be into Pigeon Forge in the next 45 minutes. The sound when Amanda was talking was pretty loud. So just to reiterate, the Sevier County Emergency Management Agency just posting within the last 8 minutes that what they're calling the Pine Mountain Fire, 30 to 40 acres in size. At last check, 15% contained. So it has spread quite a bit from that initial video from Victor into Pigeon Forge. What we're looking at is right here, not far west of Dollywood, other side of the parkway. It's been a little heavier, and it's about to get heavier at Will Puckett's location within the next, I'd say, 5 minutes. So be prepared for that. But what we're looking at is right here, that Cove area, Pine Mountain, and the heaviest bands, again, getting closer towards the Pigeon Forge area by 9:15. Here's First Alert Futurecast, just real briefly. Heaviest stuff, 9:15 till about 11 o'clock. Hopefully that inch or so of rain that we can get in that area in that amount of time should be pretty uniform in that 30 to 40 acre swath, will help wildland fire crews. Earlier today, Amanda, not too long ago, we had a 34-mile-an-hour gust. Will Puckett's been saying it may be even stronger than that in some of the hollers in that part of Sevier County. But just to the west of the parkway is where we're talking about, near that Parkside Resort. Again, update 30 to 40 acres with 15% containment.
Ben, thank you for that update. That's certainly helpful and something that we'll keep an eye on here. Just trying to pull up a map so we can give you a better idea of exactly where this is all unfolding if you're unfamiliar. And while I do that, I'm going to pull up some video of the fire that we are now seeing for Sevier County officials. Pine Mountain Fire, that is now the official name for this. As we know, it's grown to about 30 or 40 acres.
Well, as I see that spreading out the area, once it starts encapsulating an area like we're
situation. So let's see, I'm trying to pull this up here so we can see this.
Oh,
you can see
hey
the
guys,
video. I mean, just
come look at this.
People by surprise. Flames shooting up into the sky there, scrambling across the hillside. That's essentially what folks are witnessing.
Yeah. I'm going to shut down the restaurant.
If you're just joining us, we should point out that there is a shelter set up, and we're now learning more information about that particular shelter. It is being facilitated by the American Red Cross, so they have moved in to help anyone who may need assistance here. It's happening at the Pigeon Forge Community Center. And we do understand that people who have maybe come as tourists or visitors to Parkside Resort near Little Cove Road, where this is kind of like the epicenter of this evacuation. We understand that those people are being taken to this shelter. Yeah. So we understand that there are people there and more people expected. Kyle Granger, our Sevier County Bureau Chief, is getting ready to get set up for us. And sorry about that, getting set up for us so we can take a live shot there and see exactly how many people may be using the services there. So if you're just joining us, we've got what fire officials are describing as a wildfire that is burning out of control. That is according to Dandridge Fire, who is now assisting with this firefight, as is Jefferson County. It's unfolding in Pigeon Forge, right at the Parkside Resort. And that's basically the epicenter of this. People within a 2-mile radius are being evacuated. The evacuation order went out about 6:30, so we're now a couple hours into it. All right, thank you. Kyle Granger, I'm being told, is ready. So Let's see, we've got Will Puckett with us, who is in Wares Valley at one of those blockades on one of the main entrances to this firefight, where authorities are turning people around, telling them where to go if they need a shelter. Kyle Granger is live at that shelter. Will, we'll get to you in just a moment, but Kyle, if you can, this is kind of our first look. Set the stage for us and give us an idea of how many people are there, what you're hearing from them, and what sort of needs the American Red Cross is trying to help them meet.
Well, right now they're just providing them a place to stay out of the rain. We have about a dozen or so people who are here. Both are inside and some are outside, just kind of hanging around outside, trying to get the latest information from either Facebook or through us or through different people who may be just arriving from finding out this information and may have just arrived out where Will is at the scene. So in the shelter, we've got some pizza, we've got some different things for them to munch on and have food here. And of course, they're in here just kind of talking, and folks have brought their animals in, of course, getting to safety when that evacuation order came down around 6:30 here this evening. We're not very far from where I was at when I was driving home and got the alert and said, hey, you need to make sure if you're in this area that you heed these evacuation orders. So I talked to several people. One lady lives a little bit further away and is not necessarily in the evacuation zone, but she said just to be safe, she wanted to come out here to this location to make sure that she was safe throughout the course of the evening. However, I spoke to another woman who is here, and she saw the fire. She said she might have been maybe 2 football yards away from actual flames at her house. She looked out of her kitchen window, saw the flames, and that was when she started to get the alert on her phone at that time saying you need to take the evacuation at this time. So she was one of the people that saw the flames. She said they were huge flames. It wasn't necessarily a slow creeping brush fire per se, but was up in the trees, and so that gave her some concern. Of course, the folks who are here are concerned about their homes as well. We're just getting some of that information in about this being 15% contained, about 40 acres or so. And I'll tell you, again, I was with the fire chief earlier today. He was very concerned that we could have a situation unfold through the course of the afternoon and into the evening, due to the power lines falling and sparking some fires, and then also alerting folks that you really do not need to burn today. And then he was concerned about people even maybe trying to fire up the grill or something and that causing a problem. So it's been a concern all day today. And yeah.
Let's just pause there for a quick second, because this is something you had talked about earlier in our live newscasts on WVLT, and it was the fact that the wind was so strong, we knew that it was toppling some of these power lines, and there was potential for that to spark fires. Have we been able to confirm that downed power lines because of the wind sparked some of these other fires? And do we know the cause of this particular fire, which is now being called the Pine Mountain Fire?
Not at this time do I know exactly what caused the fire up on Pine Mountain. I can tell you that there were a number of electric crews that were there. I did go to another fire this afternoon off the spur between Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, Norton Creek, and actually some power lines had fallen down onto some dry brush, and that had sparked a fire in that particular area. So fire crews in Sevier County, and I know other agencies throughout our viewing area, have been dealing with this through the course of the day today. Those trees fall into the power lines. They're still alive. They spark some fire, and it really only takes just a small little spark to get a big problem there. So we'll continue to find out exactly what happened up on Pine Mountain today, but there have been multiple fires throughout the county today that have been sparked by those power lines coming down, and I was at one on Wares Valley, kind of in the Walden Creek area earlier, where someone was actually out burning in a barrel, and an ember flew into a pile of leaves and caused a fire up on that mountain. So that was one of the first ones I went to earlier today. Of course, they were able to get that out very quickly. One thing the fire chief did mention, Amanda, is that they had stage crews all throughout the county. Those volunteer stations that may not be manned, they were manned today so that they were ready and would have folks in those neighborhoods to make sure that they could get to any situation that arose as quickly as possible.
And let's talk about that text alert that went out to people in Sevier County around 6:30 tonight, Kyle, because I think that was an integral part of this evacuation process tonight. And that's something that unfortunately we did not see in 2016 during the deadly wildfires that hit then for a variety of reasons. It was kind of like a perfect storm that created this problem where people did not get notified to evacuate. So the good news is that alert did go out tonight and it was received. Can you talk a little bit about how different things are playing out tonight as opposed to 2016, when it was just something that nobody really thought would happen or could happen.
Well, let's just first of all address that alert as you're asking about. That alert system is something that the county has been working on since 2016, and of course sending out that information tonight. I got it. I was not in the Pine Mountain area, but I was maybe a mile or so away, and I got that alert notification on my phone again as I was leaving work this evening. I walked out of the office. It was really smoky. It's kind of one of those eerie feelings, kind of reminds you of 2016 when it's very smoky. You hear sirens off in the distance echoing throughout the buildings and the mountain ranges, and I said, something just doesn't feel right here, and then that alert popped up on my phone. So that is something the county has been working on. They've got code red notifications that will call you, send you text alerts, and also what we call a push notification where your phone just went off. I was actually on the phone with my mom, and it made this loud sound. Even though my phone was on vibrate, it made a noise so that you paid attention to this alert that you were getting to tell you that if you're in this area to make sure that you were evacuating. And that lady I spoke to earlier who said that the flames may have been about 200 yards away, maybe 2 football lengths or so fields. She said she didn't know anything was going on until her phone went off, and she was that close to this fire. So the alert notification went out. It's something they've worked on since 2016 to find multiple ways, multiple avenues to get that information out. Again, as you said, it didn't go out in 2016, but it went out today. And of course, that's why many people are here. They got that information sent straight to their phone, Amanda.
Yeah, just proof, Kyle, in people's hands and their phones that folks in Sevier County have been working diligently and so hard over the years to make sure that what happened in 2016 does not happen again. Kyle, if you want to spend some time chatting to the folks who are at the shelter, if anyone wants to talk with us about what they've been experiencing, we'll come back to you in a few minutes. We do want to go back to Will Puckett, who's live in Wears Valley for us, where crews are kind of turning folks around who are trying to get up Pine Mountain Road and letting them know, okay, we've got an active firefight. You can't go up this road. Here's where you can go, the shelter where we just saw Kyle Granger. Will, though, the reason we want to come back to you, you think that you might have a little bit better indication of how this fire started. And for folks who are just joining us, Sevier County officials calling this fire now the Pine Mountain Fire. 30 to 40 acres currently burning, only 15% contained at this hour. The big question, how did it start? Because, Will, we have seen all day long that Sevier County officials have been telling people, please don't burn, please be careful. The conditions are prime for a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking with the sheriff's deputy who's right here redirecting people, and he confirmed to me that before this fire started, there was a structure fire within this area. And he said that when the winds caught a hold of that, things got out of control. He could not confirm what started that structure fire, but sheriff's deputies on scene telling us that there was a structure fire in this area of the fire that was caught by winds and just caused this fire to get out of control. Again, right at this hour, about 2.5 hours after it started, about 15% contained. But I can tell you that the wind has picked up, or the rain, excuse me, has increased noticeably since I last said that it was the wind that you noticed the most. This rain has almost doubled in size. Ben Cathy telling us just a little bit ago that it was getting about within the next 15-20 minutes, noticeably worse. That has come through. But sheriff's deputies on scene tell us that there was a structure fire in the area of this now wildfire that really allowed this to get out of control, and when wind caught a hold of it, just made this situation worse. The deputy could not tell us what caused that structure fire, but Amanda, he can confirm that a structure fire started in this area and just the winds caught a hold of it and pushed it out of control.
All right, Will, that is helpful to know as we continue to try to piece together what exactly happened. That is Will Puckett for us in Wears Valley, where authorities are essentially, they've got a roadblock set up there, turning people away from Pine Mountain Road as this firefight continues. Pine Mountain Fire is what authorities are now calling this 30 to 40 acre brush fire. Dandridge fire officials who are helping out with this firefight saying it's a wildfire that is essentially burning out of control. Jefferson County helping with this firefight as well. We've got people that have been evacuated to a community center where the American Red Cross has set up a shelter. And we understand that, Parkside Resort is a part of this evacuation, so there could be hundreds of people possibly involved in this evacuation. Kyle Granger is joining us live from that shelter with a woman who's there for a little bit more information. Kyle, what can you share with us?
Well, we've been talking to folks who are here. We have folks who have not only lived here for a number of years, but we also have tourists who are staying in cabins. And as you mentioned, Amanda, potentially hundreds of people could be in that cabin area, as well as the residents who just live here year round. And I have one of those with me now. Marlene is with us, and you said that you've lived there since the 80s.
86.
86.
Yes.
So what was this afternoon like? Did you have one of those feelings when the smoke started? Tell me about this afternoon.
Yes, well, we started smelling the smoke, and then it got pretty scary, and the wind was blowing so hard that we were frightened, and we was afraid that we better start packing it up and getting out. And so we came here to the visitor center. And we're.
Did you get an alert to your phone, or did?
Yes, we got alert on the phone.
And were you in the immediate evacuation area? Did you see any flames? I know the smoke was pretty bad.
We didn't see the flames, but we would smell the smoke, and so we got frightened and decided we better get out. And so we've been here, and they've been taking care of us here.
And you guys were just sitting around with the phone, actually watching our live coverage on your phones.
Yes.
I guess you're just wanting the latest, whatever information you can get to find out what's going on with your homes and the property.
Yes. So our husbands have gone back to see if we can get in our house and get in our road. And we wanted, hopefully, to be able to go home.
How close are you to the resort that's there?
We're up Pine Mountain Road on traffic light number 6, and we've been living up there since '86.
And you said you worked at Dollywood.
I did, yeah. I worked at Dollywood for 8 years.
Yeah, so you've been here for a number of years. Have you experienced anything like this? I believe you said in 16 you just left.
Yeah, we left. We went to Florida and just hoped that everything was going to be okay when we got home. So
this is not your first time having to evacuate. I know I've covered several brush fires up on Pine Mountain or in that particular area. So it seems like something that you guys maybe prepare for ahead of time?
Yeah, we keep a close eye on it. And we had just been through a snow recently, and trees were all down on our road, and we were blocked in there for a week. And we're still cutting trees down from the snow that we had, and so now we got this.
Now you've got more trees.
We got this.
Yeah, pretty much. They teach around here fire wise. Have you been paying attention to that? Maybe trying to keep those leaves and that debris away from your house.
Oh yes, we had to have a crane come and take out trees out of our yard, and they were down all over our yard. And my husband's been still cutting it up and getting it out of there. And
lots of firewood.
Then this happens.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everything's going to be okay with you. I appreciate you stopping by to talk to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so folks here, as I said, they've been watching our live coverage on their phones, just trying to get the latest information. Information was circulating that the emergency management had posted on their Facebook page with the 15% contained and about 40 acres or so. And again, as I said earlier, Amanda, the lady I talked to who was outside, I might go try to find her if I can in just a minute. But she was talking about just how huge those flames were, and she knew that something was serious when she looked out of her window and she saw these big, huge flames that were in the treetops. This particular situation this afternoon, and again, she was sitting in her house watching television, didn't know anything was going on until she got that alert on her phone. So obviously the alert system has worked this time, getting that information out to the folks who have been coming here to the community center for evacuations.
And for folks who are not familiar, this alert system is something we're paying close attention to for good reason. In 2016, we had deadly wildfires that ripped through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The conditions were kind of similar. We had a lot of high, unprecedented wind and very dry conditions. And there was a failure of the communication system and almost a perfect storm of power outages, power lines cut, cell phone towers down, and those evacuation alerts that were being sent out never reached anyone. And so it was very difficult to notify people quickly that trouble was at bay and that they needed to get out. And unfortunately, more than a dozen people died in that fire. And Kyle, you and I were both in Sevier County that night covering it live for an extended period of time. And when you talk about this fire tonight and how it's bouncing from treetop to treetop, that is so reminiscent of what we saw in 2016, and it gives me chills just to think about that, because when we were driving through the mountains, I mean, it was just the scariest thing to see fire not on the ground, like it's on the ground, but it's moving over your head across main thoroughfares. That was such a scary thing, and I can't even imagine how people who are there now and survived that must feel.
I would say I have just a little bit of PTSD myself, being there that night with the flames, seeing those big, huge flames. You know, I was evacuated 3 times that night. We went to one location. They said we were going to be safe here. Then they come by and they say, no, we need to move you to somewhere else. And so that particular night, we kept moving from place to place, trying to run from the fire. And then we lost communications. Our cell phones went down. We were in our satellite truck. We couldn't even get satellite communication out. So the entire communication system failed back in 2016. But tonight, and again, they've been working on this 4 years since that event happened in 2016 to get a communication system, get one that would not fail, and have multiple ways to get that information out. And again, they were already sending out alerts this afternoon. I think I sent an email to the newsroom that I had just gotten a text alert from the Sevier County Emergency Management Association reminding people high winds, the potential was there for a high fire threat today. And so they've been pushing that information out all day long, getting that information. And then when they needed to make the alert notification that you need to evacuate, that of course went out as well. So they've been really proactive on this situation through the course of the day today.
And Kyle, we are showing people right now a screenshot of your alert that you sent into the newsroom as soon as you got it. It looks like you took it around 6:30, so that must have been when it came out. But basically, it just tells people, look, we've requested an evacuation within the area of Parkside Drive and Pine Mountain Road because of this brush fire. Gives people direct orders to evacuate if they're in that area, and directs them to that shelter that you are now at the Pigeon Forge Community Center, where the American Cross is assisting. So, Kyle, we appreciate your context, because I think it's really important in this situation, given what we have gone through and what folks specifically in Sevier County have gone through in past years. So we will let you get back to chatting with folks who are there and getting a handle on the situation, and we'll come back to you here in a few minutes. Kyle Granger reporting for us live from that temporary shelter that's been set up in Sevier County. Again, this is the alert that was sent to folks who were in the area, and basically what this alert system does is it completely overrides the settings on your phone, much like an Amber Alert would. So when an Amber Alert comes out, even if you've got your phone on silent, it's going to send a loud noise and notify you, and essentially this is what happened today. Kyle was saying that some folks he's talked to today were like right by the fire in the evacuation zone, and had they not gotten that evacuation order, they really wouldn't have had any clue that it was time to get out or that trouble was nearby. And the reason for that is because there's so many different elevations in this area that you're not always eye level with the fire. It could be on the ground. It could be in the treetops above you, especially in these windy conditions. We did see a lot of that in 2016, and it sounds like we're seeing more of that now as the fire bounces from treetop to treetop, kind of moved along the treetop by the heavy wind or strong wind that we've got in the area. We're going to show you a little video of the shelter. This is where we just saw Kyle Granger. We see a few people trickling in there. We do understand that people have been evacuated from the Parkside Resort. And this is where the Parkside Resort is. It's kind of at the epicenter of this evacuation zone. Pine Mountain Road, Little Cove Road. This is where authorities are focusing their attention, but we understand hundreds of people really could be in this evacuation zone. You think about all the tourists who are here. It's not just cabins, though. You know, we've got folks who live here full time. Kyle Granger just interviewing a woman who said, we just sent our husbands back up the road to see if, hey, maybe they can get in our homes. But I have a feeling that may not be possible. They live on Pine Mountain Road, and that's one of the roads that authorities have blocked to people, so they may not actually be able to get up to their homes. But she said, you know what, in 2016, when those fires hit, we left town and we hoped for the best. They've lived here since the 80s, and, you know, not often that they see something like this. We're going to take you back to the area where authorities have the roads closed off so people can't go up and potentially get trapped by this fire. This is one of the areas where crews have got the roads blocked off, and they're just turning people around just out of safety. If you're just joining us, we've got a fire that authorities are now calling the Pine Mountain Fire. 30 to 40 acres of a fast-moving wildfire that Dandridge Fire officials say is burning out of control. Dandridge Fire, Jefferson County Fire assisting with this effort. We understand hundreds of people could potentially be in this evacuation zone, and we've got essentially a 2-mile radius around a resort, Parkside Resort. We have also gotten calls into the newsroom. If you've heard this, we want to kind of squash this rumor. We've gotten calls into the newsroom that a nursing home in the area may be evacuating as well. We called Smoky Mountain Post Acute and Rehabilitation Center, and this is right off of Parkside Drive. They tell us they are on standby for evacuations, but at this hour, not evacuating, have not been asked to evacuate, but it sounds like they are in contact with authorities in case that is something that will have to eventually happen. So they are on standby for an evacuation, but not evacuating at this hour. Different story for the resort, Parkside Resort near Little Cove Road and Pine Mountain Road. Evacuations are underway there. We did see in the shelter not too many people. The American Red Cross is facilitating that shelter down the road where we saw Kyle Granger. Not too many people there, but basically giving them an opportunity to come out of the rain and wait while this firefight continues. Ben Cathy was watching the weather situation for us. You know, we knew rain was coming, and fire officials knew rain was coming tonight, and they said, we really, really hope that it comes because that could help us. Again, this is something that they've been watching. Our meteorologists have been watching. We've been telling you about for the last couple of days that we were expecting high winds. Couple that with dry conditions. That's a recipe for trouble. And so this band of rain that we're getting there now, that's something that fire officials had hoped for and is now coming. I'm going to ask David Sykes a quick question here. Do we have Ben Cathy available to go live for us? Okay. And we'll touch base with Ben. He's actually in the studio getting ready for the show. But if we can pop into the studio and get an update on the weather situation from him, that would be good as we try to keep a handle on how this rain could potentially be helping us with the firefight that's underway there. But again, if you're, and I think I have a feeling that a lot of people are probably watching this who maybe don't live in Sevier County but vacation here often. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, one of the most visited national parks in the country. So a lot of folks are familiar with the area, even though they don't live here. But you may not know that in 2016, we went through a really scary wildfire. More than a dozen people killed, and the conditions were similar to what they were tonight. Very high wind, very dry conditions, and so that's why we're watching this so closely, because we know what can happen under the right conditions. A big issue in 2016 and the evacuation process was that people didn't know there was fire. The communication system was disabled by downed power lines, downed cell phone towers. People didn't get emergency alerts to tell them to get out. And so that's one of the things that we are so glad that we are seeing tonight, is that this emergency alert did go out. People did get it, and people are telling us at that shelter, it's because I got that alert that I knew I needed to leave. And so Kyle Granger took a screenshot of it because he was in the area at the time and got the alert on his phone, so you can see it there on your screen. And for folks who don't know, Kyle Granger is our Sevier County Bureau Chief. So he actually works out of Sevier County. His essentially full-time office is there, so he's there all the time monitoring the situation. So we're going to go to Kyle now. It looks like he may have an update for us from the shelter there in Pigeon Forge. What's new, Kyle? What are you learning?
Well, I've just been having a number of people reach out to me on Facebook kind of saying, what do y'all need at the shelter? But I had a couple of tidbits of information I thought I could pass along if someone's maybe not at the shelter, maybe looking for a place to go. So the Quality Inn in Kodak says they're going to be doing discounts for anyone who needs to spend the night. So the Quality Inn in Kodak is going to be a place that you can call. We'll try to get that number and get it on WVLT.tv. Also, anyone who maybe has a pet need, I've just been told that H&L Rescue Critter Cupboard provides food for animals, and they're willing to help out in this situation. So if you're not at home where your dog or cat has the comforts of home, they can help out with that situation as well. So just wanted to pass that along for anyone who maybe needs to get that help.
Yeah, that's great information, good resources there. Can you repeat the name of the business as is helping with pet food, Kyle?
Pet food is going to be, let me open it back up on my phone, H&L Rescue Critter Cupboard. They say they provide free food for animals and to pass along that information so that if anyone needs anything, they'll be more than happy to help you.
Were you anticipating seeing more people at the shelter? Because you would think that if we've got a lot of folks evacuating from this resort, you know, really with where else are they going to go, that we would see them here?
Now, what I would imagine, even though we're in the slower time period, there may not have been a full resort, and also folks that are in town on vacation probably went and did something because all of the attractions, all of the restaurants are still open in the heart of Pigeon Forge. So perhaps they just went out and did something in town in hopes that maybe at some point this evening they would be able to get back home. I do not see the folks' husbands who told us earlier that they were going to check out the situation back yet, but as soon as they do, I'll let you know what they were able to find out.
And Kyle, I was talking about that earlier. Basically, there are some women that a woman that Kyle had interviewed earlier, and she mentioned that her and her friend's husbands went to see if they could get back into their homes, which are up Pine Mountain Road. So, you know, we know that's kind of part of the evacuation area, so unclear if they're going to be able to make it back to the homes to see if everything's okay, but I know you'll keep us updated there, Kyle. Good resources for folks who are looking for discounted lodging for the night. Quality Inn in Kodak is offering that. And then if folks maybe have pet needs, free pet food, H&L Rescue Critter is supplying some of that as well. So some options or good resources there as we move into kind of an unknown situation. Kyle, thanks. We're going to go to Ben Cathy, who is standing by for another look at how this forecast is potentially helping fire crews who are now battling a blaze that has grown to 30 to 40 acres in size, Ben, and at last check only 15% contained. Dry conditions, high wind, but we do have rain.
At that Parkside Resort for almost 2 hours. It started at 7:10 at that part of Sevier County. Very high gusts are moving through right now, and those will hit the Pigeon Forge area shortly. Just had a technically severe gust in Knoxville, and so here's that rainfall. It is about 8 miles away at last check, maybe a little bit more as I've custom. Okay, so the heaviest stuff is 14 from the fire scene. You got heavy stuff about 8 miles away from the north end of Pigeon Forge. So within the next half hour, it's raining heavily at the scene of that 30 to 40 acre brush fire, wildfire, but it will get even heavier. This is the heaviest part. That's where the highest winds are. That's going to go through Sevierville, and I want to take you into this area with the street mapped overlaid. So this area right here is that resort. This is Little Cove Road. Okay. Just to the east, so let me go back. I think you're asking me, Amanda. Dollywood's, you're fine. Dollywood's basically right here. So if you go in, Dollywood Lane, see that up by the logo? Let's see if we can move that a little bit. Dollywood Lane ends up here. So it's basically due southwest, and this is on the other side of the parkway. Real quick update. We've got that heavier pocket moving in. Should start within the next half hour, probably a little bit less. It has weakened a little bit. And again, that's going to be raining for a couple of hours. We have had heavy rainfall, 1/3 of an inch so far at the resort itself, not nearby, but at the resort itself, along with very gusty winds. So let me go back to our base map just for the question that Amanda had. Let's go into Pigeon Forge. So this is the other side. You see where Dollywood, let me put the marker. There's Dollywood.
I've actually got it pulled up right here on a map.
Okay,
so let me
perfect.
just pop over and show since I so rudely interrupted you and brought it up.
No, you're okay.
So if we, let me just pull out here because I thought I had it. My mouse is doing something funny.
Hey,
all right, so
just while you're talking, Amanda, sorry, just did the same thing to you. So just to reiterate, gusts 30 to 40 possible within the next 20 minutes. Then the rain will really pick up intensity near Will Puckett's and Kyle Granger's location. They could get an inch of rain within the next hour, but it's going to be competing with those high winds, which could also drive the fire.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you in just a second. Ben, I just wanted to pop this up real quick. So Parkside Resort, where the focus of this situation is unfolding, where the evacuation order has been ordered, and then over here, oh, I lost it. Right here is like the Dollywood area. So for folks who were asking, oh, can we not go back to him, David? Okay, cool. Let's go back to Ben. So Ben, when we talk about the amount of rainfall that we've gotten so far and what we're expected to get, coupled that with the high winds that you're anticipating here in the next half hour or so to pick up, what do you think that does to this firefight in your scientific estimation?
I mean, it is going to be kind of two competing things. The wind could make the fire briefly stronger, even though it's been raining there for an hour, 56 minutes. This is the rainfall so far. So we're going to show you at the resort about 4/10 all around this area, 3/4 of an inch. Could be another inch within the next hour. So I think that could also reduce the visibility somewhat for the wildland firefighters. I mean, there's hot spots everywhere. Some of it in the underbrush may be hard to see with the intensity of the rain. Even in Will Puckett's live shot earlier, it was very heavy. And just to show you, I mean, the heaviest stuff is right on the cusp of this area in Pigeon Forge. We're going to zoom in toward this Parkside Resort area. Should be getting heavy rain within the next couple of minutes. But it is clashing with those high winds, 40 miles an hour.
All right. Ben, thank you so much for that update. You know, we're hopeful that this is going to get figured out here soon. David Sykes, we're going to go to Kyle Granger, who is at the shelter. If you can help facilitate getting back out there to him. As we understand from Will Puckett, who is in the field, he is moving closer to the actual fire, so we hope to be able to get him live momentarily. Kyle Granger. Yeah, it's me. Kyle, if you want to take it away there. Kyle, for folks who are joining us, is at the Pigeon Forge Community Center. American Red Cross has set up a temporary shelter there for folks who are part of this evacuation as a brush fire that authorities are calling one that's burning out of control moves through that area. So, Kyle, what's the latest from the shelter?
Well, we just had someone from the Red Cross come through and say, you can all go home now. So that's why the room is now empty. They have lifted that evacuation order for the folks who are in this room at this shelter, seeking that shelter. And the Red Cross is now in the process of starting close-up operations here for this evening. So that's what's happening at the shelter. These folks, I tell you, they ran right out of here as quickly as they came through and said, you can all go back home. But I can't blame them there, wanting to go back and make sure everything was okay. And again, we had some folks in here with some pets, and you know, they wanted to get the pets back to the comforts of home as well. So the shelter is closing.
That's great news.
Folks have gone home, and maybe that sounds like some good news now coming out of Pine Mountain.
And stay with us just a second, Kyle. Guys in the newsroom, forgive me, I'm in the newsroom. I just want to make sure everyone is aware of what Kyle just said, that everyone in the shelter was told that they could go home, that the evacuation order has been lifted, and they're free to return home. So it makes you think, Kyle, the woman that you interviewed earlier, I hope her husband is coming back for her because he went to check up on the house. So hopefully the house is okay.
Yeah,
hopefully he's going to come back for her. Okay, perfect. And you know, this
Yeah,
kind
not
of
leave her here. She's already gone, so
she done left. You know, this corroborates, I think, what Will was trying to communicate with us, is that they're kind of easing back or fully eliminating that roadblock that they had set up earlier. So it sounds like things are moving in the right direction out there, which is great news. And you know, I know how much Sevier County means to you, Kyle, as it does all of us. But you live there, you work basically full time in Sevier County, and you survived the wildfires in 2016, and so I know how much joy this brings you to see this kind of wrapping up quickly, and most importantly, safely.
hopefully this is the good news. You know, I just stepped to the car. I had to get my laptop to try to work on the 10 and 11 o'clock news. And it's raining. I mean, pretty decent rainfall right now in Pigeon Forge. So hopefully that's falling over Pine Mountain as well. I know Ben was showing us the radar and stuff like that. So hopefully that's getting down on the ground, getting things saturated, so it's helping those fire crews with those suppression efforts up there.
All right, Kyle Granger reporting live.
If I could also say this, Pine Mountain, if I could just say this, Pine Mountain, you know we live in the mountains, but Pine Mountain's a pretty steep mountain, and you're down up in the holler, so those crews are really dealing with not only the elements of the weather, but also the terrain as well. So kudos to them for jumping out there, getting involved. They've got all of that heavy fire equipment that they put on to go with that. They've got the shovels and the rakes and all of the equipment. And on top of that, they're, you know, climbing up very, very steep terrain, and also that can lead to the elements as well, with that wind pushing that fire in many different directions, especially when you get into that wind shifting and pushing fire up the mountain. So very, very steep terrain out there, and that is what they have been dealing with this evening.
And not just this evening, Kyle. I mean, you think about it, really, this has been an all-day-long effort. They've got to be exhausted. That's, you know, they're probably thankful that Dandridge Fire and Jefferson County Fire have come in to help. Probably much welcome and much needed help. So we're going to continue to monitor this situation. But the very latest, if you're just joining us, Kyle is saying that someone just walked into the shelter, the American Red Cross shelter, and said everyone's free to go back to their homes. So that's good news that we're hearing the evacuation order has been lifted in this area of Pigeon Forge, where a brush fire sparked evacuation. So Kyle Granger, thank you for that good information. And if something else pops up, let us know and we'll come back to you, or we'll share it here online and on air. All right, Kyle, thanks. So good news from Kyle Granger that we are hearing the evacuation order there has potentially been lifted, and that folks at that shelter were allowed to head back home, which is great news. For folks in the area. Kind of a scary situation. You know, you try to come home and this is what you come up on earlier in the night. Crews blocking the road home and saying, nope, you can't come up here, can't check on your house, can't check on your pets. We've got a firefight underway. So probably a lot of relief as the situation starts to change and evolve. For folks who are joining us, this is a very fluid situation. I'm in the newsroom. We've got a lot of other people working here and feeding me information. One of the most important people in the newsroom is David Sykes, who kind of makes sure that we can go to all the different people in the field. David, do you know if Will Puckett is available? Okay, he's calling Will right now because Will, at last check, was trying to get a little bit closer to the epicenter of this firefight and provide a live shot for us there. So David is on the phone with him to see if we can take that live. That'll give us a better idea of where exactly we are in this situation, because what we're hearing from Kyle is that it's good news that they've lifted the evacuation order, but we would still like to see from Will, live on the scene closer to the fire, what exactly is going on there, because at last check, 30 to 40 acres still burning, only 15% contained. So what has changed in the last few minutes here to give folks the all clear to head back home? So I'm going to share, and we heard Kyle talking about this earlier, that this is, you know, a difficult firefight for these firefighters just because of the terrain. I mean, it really is so incredibly steep, and then you've got hollers in the valley, and it's just up and down, and very vertical. So we know it's tough, and then you couple that with the fact that crews have been doing this basically all day long, and they knew that they were going to be up against some tricky conditions, and so they were kind of emotionally braced for it, or mentally braced for it. But, you know, they've been working hard all day, and people have been really scared that they were potentially going to lose their homes, and really thankful when fire crews showed up and basically saved the day. So here's a look at what's been happening earlier today as we give Will Puckett a chance to get set up and live to give us a current view of this firefight and how it's progressing.
He was enjoying his morning coffee.
It was just a bunch of smoke. So I run back in the house and told my wife, you need to call 911 real quick. I said, there's a fire behind our cabin.
There is a high fire danger in Sevier County.
Sevier County EMA sent out a mass message to county residents reminding them not to burn. Hall says embers from his neighbor's fire blew into the dry leaves. Firefighters say with a burn ban in place, they shouldn't have been burning in the first place.
On y'all's channel that I watch all the time was saying how high the winds were going to be up in the mountains, you know. And then next thing you know, a fire breaks out.
Firefighters say not only their quick response helped save this house and many others, but also this natural fire break, which they say you need to have around your house as well.
We do have those concerns, okay, and so we just got to get smarter about the way that we build them. We got to get smarter about the way we protect them, and we just got to educate all those people here.
Chief Tony Watson says the dry conditions and strong winds created a dangerous situation. That's why he says all the county's firefighters are on high alert.
Anybody in the fire service in our area, we're all collectively, you know, just holding our breath, waiting, you know, till we get rain in later in tonight.
Hall is thankful for their quick response, which saved his home and many others.
Without these guys from Walden Creek coming up here and putting this fire out, this whole mountain would have been engulfed. So our hats are off to these firefighters here.
And looking for rain to help the situation. In Sevier County, Kyle Granger, WVLT News.
All right, if you're just joining us, some good news. The evacuation order has been lifted in Pigeon Forge. It was issued almost 3 hours ago and essentially told people, you know what, get out. We've got a fast-moving brush fire. We have high wind and we have dry conditions. It is not safe for you to be there. And we had a 2-mile radius around the Parkside Resort, which is right in this area. That was under this evacuation order. And, you know, we thought, gosh, there could be potentially hundreds of people under this evacuation order, especially when you think of tourists who might be in the area. Kyle Granger telling us it's kind of a quiet time, so that's why he suspects he wasn't seeing as many people at that shelter where we saw him earlier. This is the shelter, and it was fairly empty. He suspects folks either got that notification on their phones telling them about the fire and to evacuate and kind of went into town to kill some time to wait to see what would shake out, or that, you know, we're not really in the super busy season right now, that maybe there just wasn't a lot of people there to be evacuated. But good news is the evacuation order has been lifted. We are waiting for Will Puckett, who is closer to where this active firefight is happening, to give us a little bit more information. He's trying to get closer to it, figure out how the fight is progressing, where we're at, because at last check, you know, this was a 30 to 40 acre fire that was only 15% contained. So we're trying to figure out, you know, what's changed there. Ben Cathy has, of course, been watching the weather situation for us because, Ben, this has had weather implications. You know, we talk about the dry conditions that you all have been forecasting and the high wind that you've been forecasting, and this was what made us, fire officials, concerned about what could happen tonight.
I got his audio. I got it. He'll be there. He doesn't have on the mic.
Oh, Ben, if you can hear us, is your mic on? Yeah, you are on. Okay, I think he's going to come out here into the studio. We have some sort of technical issue there with Ben. But we do know that he was forecasting wind to pick up in these next few minutes, 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts in the area, which, you know, isn't great news. We'd like that to die down, but we also have the rain in play there as well. So Ben's coming on back over here, and you can put this microphone on, Ben. That should work for you. And David will get you, I think, set up. But So you're thinking within the next 10 minutes or so, those wind gusts are going to die down, or they're going to continue? And you can come a little bit closer.
Okay, so yeah, we'll get more gusts. We're seeing right now the heaviest stuff. And on our weather, you see...
Do you want to go to the map?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Right in the middle of the screen is where we're seeing the heaviest rain right now. The rain's going to pick up in the next 10 to 15 minutes, so a real soaker, but we could have gusts towards 40 miles an hour. Hey, you know, we talked about this, the wildfire risk. We had this at a high level earlier today, Amanda. The Harris Valley Fire Department had it at a very high level. They were banning further issuance of the burn permits. But here's what we got for the next couple hours. In general, the next hour should be very breezy. The 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock hour, a little drop, and then from 11 to 12, we'll continue to see it a step down. High humidity, and just to update you, nearly half an inch of rain at that Parkside Resort. They actually have a little tiny weather station at the resort that we've been watching, and it started raining at 7:10, so it's been raining there for 2 hours.
So you're getting really accurate information about how much precipitation is falling in that very specific area where this evacuation was underway.
Right, where the fire started, that Parkside Resort just to the west of the Parkway in Pigeon Forge. That's where we are seeing, thankfully, the fire. Well, hopefully the fire conditions improve, but certainly more water falling.
Yeah, and that's good. That can never hurt, right? You're fighting a fire, you want it to rain, and you want it to rain a lot. We do know from Will Puckett, who reported earlier, you know, the big question is, how did this fire start? Because some of these other fires, we have been able to confirm, started potentially through down power lines that were down by the wind. But the question is, how did this particular fire start that was the catalyst for the evacuations? And Will said, you know what, we don't know the exact cause, but we're kind of like inching our way towards it. Officials saying a house caught fire, and then that sparked the brush fire. But the big question is, well, how did that house catch fire? So that's part of the forensics investigation that's likely underway as crews try to piece that together.
Real fast, the initial video we got from Victor, which was when it was a really small fire. I mean, it was barely above the level of the grass. That was very close to the cabin rentals. You couldn't see exactly where. I can tell you there has been no lightning in that area to that point, so it certainly didn't come from lightning.
All right, sounds good. Ben, thank you so much. I'll let you pop out. We're going to go to Will, he's getting drenched. So that's, I mean, bad news for Will, but good news for folks who are fighting this fire and hoping that the fire is out soon. Will, getting windy. We're seeing those wind gusts that Ben was talking about, but the rain is there, and that's good. Are you okay? Do you want us to come back to you in a second?
No. I think we're going to be dealing with those sort of wind gusts, as Ben makes it sound like, for the next couple of, for a little while. But I talked earlier, if you've been with us throughout this entire little bit, that the wind gusts, you could hear them when we were down in the hollow, but we are right on top of Parkside Resort. Just off to my left a little bit here is actually where Fire Command is. And so this is where everything, sort of how they were going to fight this fire, is being coordinated within that building as part of this Parkside Resort right now. Amanda, I can tell you, when we were down along the holla, you couldn't really smell fire. You couldn't see smoke or anything like that. Let me tell you, it's completely different up here. It is that sort of bonfire-esque smell right now, and the wind has picked up notice. I mean, these gusts, it didn't almost blow me over, but definitely caught me off guard. Had to brace myself. Our photographer, Josh Edmonds, and I were just sort of standing right here saying, my goodness, these winds are heavy. But it would be a different story if they weren't wrapped around this heavy rain that's also falling. And so these gusts come and go. It's not windy at all right now, but things compared to how they were down in the hollow to where they're up right here, completely different.
Have you gotten any sense from crews on the scene where they are with this firefight? Because really the last piece of information we've had is that this is still a 30 to 40 acre fire that's only 15% contained. And we have to imagine that things have changed considerably since they've lifted the evacuation order.
Yeah, changed considerably, and I'll tell you a little bit of something that happened where we got to move and then were able to come up here. The Sheriff's Department, the Sevier County Sheriff's Department, is who has been sort of cordoning things off from people to get up here. But where we were standing, they said, hey, if you all don't mind moving about maybe a football field to a football field and a half back to where your cars are parked, because we don't want that fire to come over the hill, because if it does that, we don't know what to tell you. And then as we were packing up our stuff to move back, the sheriff's deputy said, actually, we've just been called away from this, so we're no longer having to set up an area that people have to stay away from, and the evacuation order no longer stands. And so it went from within a couple of minutes to, hey, we're concerned about this, to, hey, you know what, they've actually said that they're pretty good. We don't have...
Will, I'm not sure. We may have just lost you here for a second. We'll come back to you in a second. We do have some information that we want to share really quick. This is big, and this is good news. Sevier County Emergency Management Agency reporting right now that they have got this fire 45% contained, and they're again echoing what we've been telling you, that anyone who is evacuated may return.
Keep
and we'll come. We can hear you, Will, so we'll come back to you in just a second. And basically they're saying, look, the rain has really been helping us out here, but you can see this image that just spells out what they're up against. We heard Kyle Granger talking about the terrain in this area, and you see it right there. This is difficult indeed. Ben, here's your phone back. Sorry, he showed me that on his phone, and then I never gave it back to him. So good news, 45% contained, and folks are allowed to head back to their homes. And then, Will, are you in a position that we can come back to you real quick? We lost you for a second. Yeah, okay. I don't know if you were able to...
I mean, we're having a lot of rain, and so that obviously affects electronics, but go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, I don't know if you were able to hear this, but as I had asked you, where are we with the containment of this fire? And you were trying to explain it, then Ben walked over with an update from Sevier County Emergency Management. So the update is that fire officials have got this 45% contained now, and then again, telling people they can go home, which is what we've been reporting for the last few minutes or so. But, saying what they had hoped for and what we suspected is that rain really helped a lot. I know it's not comfortable for you to stand out in, but in terms of a firefight, it really has been helpful, they're saying.
Yeah, significantly. I mean, this rain, earlier I had said that what you could notice was the wind and not really the rain. That while we're still noticing these heavy wind gusts, the rain is now just coming down in sheets at times. And you have to imagine, especially up on the mountaintop, really where we're at right now, that is just almost a godsend to these firefighters. While they still have to worry about these heavy wind gusts, we've seen several fire official vehicles leave this area where we're at. And so here in just a second, I'm going to walk into Fire Command that's just off to my left to see if we can get just information or a little quick summary for 10 and 11. But as far as the rainfalls, I have to imagine for these firefighters, it has become what we would consider a godsend, like I said, in just... Obviously, they're using water to fight this fire, but when they fight wildfires, they use so many other tactics other than just putting water on the fires. They dig trenches, try and clear away anything that could fuel that fire, the debris, the dead grass, so on and so forth. But in this instance, this rain that's falling, I don't think they could have asked for anything more than that.
I mean, it's just... I think so many people are so thankful, Will. Let's give you a break if you want to pop in and see what you can glean from folks at this, I guess, kind of quote-unquote command center. Maybe get dry for a second, and we'll take it from here. And then if you've got new information, just let us know. We'll come back to you. Will Puckett, braving the rain for us to bring us the good news and good information out there from the Parkside Resort, which was basically the epicenter of this evacuation order that's since been lifted, and which was interesting to see there as he panned his camera over and showed all the emergency crews. They basically used that as kind of like a command center where they could gather and quickly get a plan together and act on that plan. So he's going to pop in and get some more information. If you're just joining us, about 6:30, so 3 hours ago, an evacuation order was issued for Pigeon Forge, a particular area of Pigeon Forge, and an alert went out to folks in the area on their phones, kind of like you would get an Amber Alert. It notifies you based on geofencing what's going on in your area. So this emergency alert went out, told people to get out, and thank God this went out and that people got it, because Kyle Granger, who was at this shelter earlier, talked to some of the folks there who said, you know what, the fire was literally right outside my house. I had no idea. The only reason I knew to get out was because I got that emergency alert on my phone. And this is such a big deal because of what we went through in 2016 when wildfires tore through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and killed more than a dozen people who just simply were not able to evacuate and get out in time. And a lot of blame was placed on the fact that the emergency alert did not go out as it was supposed to. You had cell phone towers that were damaged, power lines that were down, issues with the alert system. People weren't notified to get out. So that is proof positive that Sevier County officials have been working diligently all these years since 2016 to make sure that they've got that evacuation process in place. They've got a plan, but also that they've got an emergency alert system that is reliable and that is going to work when they need it. So here we are 3 hours after the evacuation order was sent out. Folks are now back in their homes or being allowed back into their homes. This barricade at the road is no longer there. Deputies, authorities kind of pulling back and saying, okay, it's clear to go back up to your home, make sure everything is okay. So that's the good news. Where do we stand on the actual firefight? We are getting word from Sevier County Emergency Management here within the last little while that the fire is 45% contained, and I just want to refresh this so I can show you the image that they posted along with that post because I think it's very telling of what they've been up against. So 45% contained at this hour. This was posted 14 minutes ago. This is information we've been reporting for the last few minutes, that they feel like they've got this more under control than they did. Earlier, it was 30 to 40 acres and only 15% contained. Folks can go home, and this is the big piece of the equation. The rain is providing assistance to emergency personnel. The rain has been helping. Look at this image. It shows you exactly what crews have been up against. And it's not just this fire, by the way. I mean, there have been fires scattered across East Tennessee, little ones, a little bit bigger ones. So it's been a tough day and a busy day for a lot of fire crews across the area. We do know that Dandridge Fire and Jefferson County Fire are also helping out with this too. So they've had some help, which is great. When we talk about, okay, how exactly did this start? Will Puckett, learning from some deputies who were on scene, that this wildfire or brush fire started after a home caught fire. Now the big question is, how did that home catch fire? We had been hearing from crews earlier in the day that the wind was knocking down power lines and starting some of those smaller brush fires. So this will be part of the investigation to figure out exactly how this started. Kyle said there was one fire he came upon that was started, a different fire, started by someone who was burning debris in like a barrel. And, you know, fire officials have been saying all day, please do not burn because we have got prime conditions, especially in the Smokies and near the mountains for fire. Dry conditions and strong wind. So that is the situation. The emergency evacuation has been lifted. Folks are free to go back to their home. The emergency shelter is closed, and we're waiting on Will Puckett to get a little bit more information from crews as they continue their firefight, which, you know, isn't just using water to get the water on the fire, but also to dig those perimeters in the earth when necessary to kind of build those firewalls. So we are going to sign off here as we get ready for our 10 o'clock news on CW. We will be live there with the latest on the situation. We'll come back on social media and on our live streaming platforms to bring you the latest if the situation evolves in a different direction. But by all accounts, it seems like it is safe for folks to return, and fire crews have this situation under control. You can always go to the WVLT News app for the latest on this story. And if you have the app, we will be sending alerts straight to your phone about the situation as it develops. Have a great night and be safe.